Good morning and welcome to February, and indeed welcome to my first attempt at making a video. February so far has been pretty much February. We've had storms Dudley, what was the next one, Eunice, Franklin. There's probably one other that sideswiped us, so I'm a little bit late making the video. I had intended to make it on my birthday when I got this camera, but that got sadly a little bit delayed. I'm Clive, otherwise known as the Rhino, a bit of an unkind initially cycling nickname from training for the stage of the Tour de France that we did in 2012. The Rhino epithet was thrown at me as a result of, how should we put it? My inability to sprint properly on a bicycle. So clearly the van part of the title we are actually sitting in, and I'll give you a bit of a tour around that in a minute. But unfortunately, owing to the fact that I've been using it in February weather, it's absolutely filthy. So before we do that, I'm going to cut to some footage of me actually cleaning the vehicle, which, if anybody that knows me will know, that's very, very unusual. And whilst you're watching that, I'm going to wobble on about how I came to own the thing in the first place. We'll see you in a little while. So cast your mind back to 2020, the start of a year that saw rumblings coming out of the Far East about this thing called coronavirus that nobody knew what it was. That led us to March and the world sort of changing a little bit. Now for me, things had already changed. I was already working from home by then, having had another flare-up of a perennial bad back problem. So I was already working from home when first lockdown happened. The problem really was that, well, we were having work done on the house at the same time, so we were all shoved into one tiny little box room. And I ended up trying to work at a table in about 3 square feet of working space, which meant that pretty much I was sitting in one position all day. 2 or 3 weeks of that did me no good, to the extent where I couldn't even lie down to go to sleep. Phone calls to the doctors, remember you couldn't go to surgeries in those days, just basically got the standard reply of, well, you need to get out and exercise, you need to go for a walk, and here's some painkillers. Ever increasing painkillers each time I got in touch with them, to the extent where at the start of May I went out for the walk that was obligatory to sort of loosen things up, stretched my back out about 250 metres into such a ride, and went down like I'd been shot by a sniper. It took about half an hour to get the 250 metres back home, and having gritted my teeth and put up with it for another 36 hours, I ended up being dragged off to casualty by my wife. Long story short, took them about 6 hours to get me into an MRI machine. Remember, couldn't lie down flat. And 60 minutes after coming out of the machine, I was heading off to surgery with my backside up in the air to have emergency spinal surgery. I got very, very, very lucky, and I walked out of the hospital the following day, having been told by the surgeon how serious it was, in that I could have been leaving in a wheelchair. That tends to focus the mind. We'd been talking for ages about getting a camper van, perhaps when we retire, etc, etc, etc. And this was a bit of a reminder that life is what happens when you're planning to do other things. So, middle of May, when Boris flounced onto the screen and muttered something like "caution written from Thursday" or something like that, and then sort of blew off like an exploding haystack, exiting stage left, I got on the phone to Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles, found a second-hand van, asked a local converter whether they'd be interested in doing it, and he pointed out that second-hand van prices at that point in time were utterly ridiculous, and he knew a man who knew a man who knew a man who could probably find me a new one for about 10% more. And, well, pretty much that's how we ended up with this van. We got it at the start of June, it went off to the converters, and by the end of July we had a converted van ready to go. Now obviously COVID has still been in full swing from time to time since then, so we haven't perhaps done as much in it as we'd like, but we're getting to that stage now, so hopefully later this year there will be a big European trip on the cards. Let's wait and see. That took a little longer than expected. As you can see, it's later in the day. One van. As you can see, Volkswagen T6. We've gone for the T32 variant of it, so we shouldn't have any problem whatsoever with the amount of weight that we need to carry. Oh, look how clean it is. You can even see me with a camera. Wow, doesn't happen very often. As you can see in the cab, we've gone for the DSG automatic. It's got the Highline, I think Highline pack with the navigation aid and the entertainment package and aircon in the front of the cab. All very nice. In the rear, still a mess, but never mind. In the rear, units in there, gas storage down there, water storage across there, and room for various bits and dabs inside, as you can see. We've also gone for the bow fronted cupboard with fridge, cutlery drawer above it. Got to be honest, if we did it again, probably wouldn't go for the bow fronted fridge unit, because that bow there does tend to snarl on the back of the driver's seat, which is a bit of a pain. Back in here you can see in the front that we've got the double bench seat. I suppose ultimately we would like to go for a captain seat, but they are hideously expensive. But as you can see down on the floor, this one's on a swivel, so that's pretty good. Down there is the outlet for the diesel heater, and when we're on a hookup, a wee electric radiator. One of the few bits of work that I have done for myself on the van is I have put the adjusting centre bracket in here, which means that you can actually bend this seat forward. So quite often we find that we don't end up turning this seat around. Instead we just tend to fold it over forwards, and that makes the extra room that we need. In the back here, beneath this throw, is a sliding rib bed. So not only does it fold down to make a bed, but it also goes all the way back if we want more room in the cab when we're actually not using it as a bed. Got to be brutally honest with you, very rarely do we actually put it all the way to the back. We tend to prefer the extra space over the back of the seat. Round to the back of the van. Tailgate rather than barn doors. Again, that was by choice. And the very messy back of the van. Now, the cupboards in the back here, admission, they did originally have doors on. But when you get old and forgetful like what I am, you tend to shut this here tailgate before you remember to shut the doors. Guess what? They don't last that long. So in there, tambour door. Somewhere down the front there, where you probably can't see it, is the electricity unit. Bed with, I think it's a 5cm memory foam mattress on it, and bags and bags of space underneath the seat. Moving back to the main van, the one thing you will notice that we are completely carpet lined all the way through, and we've got a sliding panel here that covers the canvas of the pop top when the pop top is down. So obviously there be the canvas. Now the pop top itself, we've actually gone for the fairly slimline Skyline pop top. This one, in terms of its fixings, you see a lot of pop tops that are held down by just straps that come down in the roof, but this one, if I can focus it on there, in here, these have brackets which are right the way through the roof. Twist that, similar on the other side. We'll go around and do that. What a splendid afternoon. Similarly here, nicely hidden behind the visor. That twists like that, and then hopefully I should be able to prove to you that it's very, very easy to get the pop top to raise. One hand, and up we go. So as you can see, plenty of space back there. Small, quite thin memory foam mattress, but reasonably comfortable. My head round from the back. Sun's a bit in the way here, so I'll wander down the garden a bit. As you can see, I've been a bit busy mowing the grass, hence the lateness of the day. And you can possibly make out from that we have got a solar panel on the roof as well. So that is a Skyline Scenic canvas. So that canvas will unwrap, will unzip all the way around the bottom, roll up to the top, and you can have the top of the van completely open when you're parked up. And obviously when you get back inside, this board here also raises. So we'll do that now. And we've got it on the joint pivot at the back, so it does give you more headroom when you're in the van. And once that's up, particularly when you're parked up, you've got quite a lot of room and loads of windows. Way, sunshine, don't mind that. And bags of light when you're parked up. So pretty much that's the inside of the van. Works very nicely for us, and yeah, that's what we've got. One remaining thing of note outside is we have had a Dometic awning fitted. That's really, really useful if you're staying somewhere for a very short time, but also you'll notice in this, as you look along the edge of it, there is a groove there in which you can put a rail to attach it to a drive-away awning, which if we're staying anywhere for slightly longer we would usually use. But that's quite useful if you're just pulling up anywhere. Just whip the awning out and put a windbreak around it, and you can be fairly comfortable providing the wind's not blowing a hoolie. Well, that's the Rhino and the van. The one thing that is now missing, of course, is the bike, and that normally sits on the back somewhere just about here. So this is the weapon of choice, a Trek Demane 6.2 Superlight frame, Hunt wheels, and a compact Shimano 105 chainset. The eagle-eyed amongst you will already see that I am going to be upsetting the cycling purists because I've put disc brakes on a road bike. Anybody who complains about that sort of thing has never obviously tried to stop 110 kilos of descending lard in the wet. Not as easy as you might expect. And the other thing, just to make life even more interesting, is I have gone for tubeless tyres, just because I can. So hopefully at some point over the next few months the weather is going to relent and I'm going to be able to get Best Bike here out on the road and do a couple of Audexes, which for the uninitiated are long distance cycling events organised at various places around the UK most weekends during the year. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this year I'm going to be able to get fit enough to do a couple of those. So what can you expect if you come back here a couple of times? Well, it's probably easier to tell you what not to expect. Don't expect a video every week premiering at 7 o'clock on a Friday evening, showing you all sorts of interesting things that have been going on in the past 7 days. Couple of reasons for that. Firstly, I'm about to retire and that sounds far too much like a job. And secondly, I'm just not that interesting. You're not going to see hashtag van life videos because I don't live full-time in the van. As you can see, it's very small and there are more comfortable things to do. What you will see is a little bit of travelling, a little bit of what we're getting up to around our garden, a little bit of DIYing, a little bit of cycling. In fact, a little bit of everything that I'm getting up to. If I'm being brutally honest, this is more for my benefit than yours. You know, when I am old and feeble of brain, I get to look back at this stuff and remember what I did. If you happen to enjoy it along the way, so much the better. So that's probably enough rabbiting on for now. Why don't we have just a little look at what you can get up to when you have a van like this and you decide to go not very far at all. You don't have to go far from home to end up in a really nice place. See, first order of the day, Vaninis. Bradgate Park from up here. Very, very pleasant it is too. Yeah. Now, theoretically, in the park somewhere, there are some deer. They are probably down the bottom end of the park, down there somewhere. We'll go and have a look. Just a little bit, eh? Whoop. More brook than path. It's always the first thing you check when you get back to a car park. Is there a grey Rhino van in there somewhere? And the answer is yes. And it's back home to a whole hedge full of spuggies. Who are all waiting for me to get out of the way so that they can go back to their boxes. So currently all three of those are occupied. There is nesting behaviour going on in all three of those, so sometime later in the summer there will be clouds of little sparrows around. Well, congratulations if you made it this far. You have a great deal of stamina. I think that's quite enough of me sort of rabbiting on and sort of filming this, that and the other for this time. And if you happen to be mad enough to like it, bash the button down there somewhere, I think. That when I finally get round to posting something else, then you'll get a notification. Give me an idea, bash a like, preferably not a dislike down the bottom, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.